right, we're back. It is Thursday, 8 o'clock, and we're back here on the stream. And I appreciate you guys tuning in, even though we got no one tuned in right now. But I like listening to myself talk, so I got the headset on, but I'm about to take it off. I don't know. It kind of helps hearing myself talk, but we'll see. There's a delay from the one screen to the other screen, so we're going to see. But we're going to give it a few seconds, wait for some people to tune in. We just had someone tune in. I probably know who that person is, but today, I had talked last week, or not last week. Well, I talked last week and yesterday, or 2 days ago. But today, I kind of want to talk about forward-facing sonar, and I kind of got into a little heated argument with myself, basically trying to hold myself in from going too crazy on a topic that I want to talk about. And let's see, we got, of course, Avery Neal is here. I don't know why I am typing to you when you can hear me via the mic. But anyways, how does everything sound? Everything look good? Everything sound good? It looks pretty good on my end. We'll see. But I'm just going to kind of dive into what I wanted to talk about. Like I said, I got into a little heated argument with myself and trying to hold myself at bay last stream on Tuesday. And I was getting into talking about the myths of bass fishing, all the things we say when we're talking bass fishing. We're always talking, the fish aren't active, or the fish are doing this, they just didn't bite, things like that. A lot of fishermen have these little sayings that we like to say just because it makes us feel better about not catching fish, or we want to think we know what the fish are doing, when actually, I talked about the other day, we realize now with forward-facing sonar, we really don't know a whole lot. We don't know nearly what we thought we knew. I have some things written down here. I mean, a typical myth is bass are lethargic in the winter. And I used to be one of those guys. I'm not anymore, but I'll hear people still say it, and I just look at them and go, they don't know any better because they just don't have the technology. You can tell who has the technology and who doesn't have the technology. But, to say bass are lethargic in the wintertime, that's a lie. They're not lethargic. They're not sitting on the bottom doing nothing. They are not. They're just not. They're constantly. You got to look at it this way. If I'm out there, if I'm outside, human being, anything, any animal in the wintertime, do you think to stay warm, I need to keep moving? Yes. Do I need to eat? Yes. They say the metabolism slows down. I haven't seen, I don't know. Maybe that's why they just get fatter. Because I seem to think, I think they feed about the same no matter what time of the year it is, honestly. In the wintertime, I'm seeing fish all around bait balls. And the thing is, they're chasing the bait. They're crashing in on the bait. You can notice a difference in the summertime. The summertime, you're going to have more bass schooled up together. You'll see groups of 20, 30. I've seen a case where I've seen 120 bass, just all over the place, schooled up, feeding. And that's in the summertime. But in the wintertime, I even see, you get more wolf packs. But you'll see them hang out beneath the bait and things like that. But the bass are definitely just as active in the wintertime than they are any other time of the year. I think the wintertime is the best fishing. If you're not out there fishing when it's 32 degrees, 35 degrees, freezing outside, 42-degree water temps, 43, you're missing out on the best bite there is. And now when I put this, on Facebook, I said, if you miss out on this, you're going to be missing out on a lot of good information, because everything I'm telling you, you can relate this, or you can use this in any scenario when you're fishing. all these things I'm going to talk about, everything I talk about, you can use in your style of fishing. And the problem is most people aren't. And I know it's you gotta be able to think about this and be able to relate it to experiences when you've been on the water. Like I had a guy, he messaged in the other day on one of the chats and said that he caught his biggest bass in the wintertime burning a chatterbait. And so it's just proof to show that in the wintertime, bass are very active. They are not lethargic. Anyone tells you that, just walk away. I used to be that guy, so you would have walked away from me, but I know better now. I've learned. I've taught myself that fish are very active in the wintertime. It is the best fishing. There's so many myths I debunk. If someone comes to you and says, like, I've had people come to me and try to like get me to use a bait. And they hold the bait up to me and show me, and they go, look at that action. Look at that action. But knowing what I know now, I see that action and it turns me off. It turns me off, really. Just like it turns the fish off. Those fish aren't looking for something with a lot of action. What's going on, Hunter? Nice to see you in here. But what we're talking about is forward facing sonar, the myths of fishing. I've already talked about how bass in the wintertime are not lethargic. They are not sitting on the bottom. They are constantly moving, constantly feeding. I'm going to play some clips. I got some clips lined up here. Then I'm going to show you some clips. And granted, these are in the summertime, but I see the same behavior in the wintertime. But next thing I was talking about is how a lot of people think more action is better, and that is not the case. A lot of you think, you always hear about how do you fish a swim bait, right? Well, when you're fishing a swim bait, you're going to slow roll it. You want to fish a lot of baits that way, not just a swim bait. I've realized you'll be swimming. Say I'm slow rolling a swim bait and I got a fish trailing it on my forward facing sonar. If I give that thing a pop, I want to say 100, but it's not 100. It might be like 99.9% of the time that fish is going to turn away and not want nothing to do with it. So when people come to me and say, look at the action on this bait. Sorry, I bumped the mic there. When they say, look at the action on this bait, I laugh because those fish don't like a lot of action. Now that action will help, might get their attention. But like I said in one of my previous videos, with using forward facing sonar, I know that subtle presentation is the way to go. And that determines the type of lure you're going to fish. But it will be time of the year. Another thing here I got, people always talk about high bluebird skies, sunny skies, no wind are, bad days to fish. I've been spending a lot of time on the water at a very good fishery, okay, using forward facing sonar in all conditions. I don't know. Avery's on here. He can kind of back me up on this and let's see if he thinks he's noticed a difference in feeding behavior throughout the time. I don't notice a difference in feeding behavior. I found that sunny days with wind are probably the best days, although we caught a 40-pound bag on a day when it was cloudy and slick calm. So I've seen everything. I've been prefrontal, post-frontal, all conditions. The fish really just do what they want when they want. I think most of it has to do with what the bait's going to be doing. Now, I will say I notice conditions, the fish's behavior changes because of the bait. But now when I think about it more, I think it's not so much the fish's behavior changing because it's the bait's behavior. The bait dictates how the fish are going to be behaving and acting throughout that day, how they're going to be feeding, where they're going to be feeding. Are they going to be feeding up high? Are they going to be feeding down low? Where's the bait at in the water column? If you're seeing that bait down low, you don't want to fish above the bait. You're not going to, if the bait is down low, God, that's a good tip. I shouldn't have shared that. That's okay. We only got 4 people here watching. So maybe, maybe too many people won't tune in and they'll just watch it later and just click through it. But I always notice that bass are below the bait. So if you have bait at 10 feet, you don't want to be fishing your bait at 10 feet, 8 feet. If the bottom of that bait goes to 15 feet, You want that bait at 15 feet. You don't want it at 20 feet. You want it, those bass are going to be about 2.5, 3 feet below the bait max. I mean, if they're any deeper, they're eventually going to swim up to it. But I'm telling you, you want to, or they're going to be in the bait. You'll have that bait ball. Let's see if I can do this. You'll have like a bait ball and then a circle in the middle of that bait ball, and you'll see one bright dot, and that's your bass sitting in the middle of that bait ball. And then you'll have your dots beneath that bait. Those are going to be your bass as well. You're never going to see bass above it. Sorry, bass feet up. So if you're fishing bait, if you don't have forward facing sonar, you're going to want to be fishing but right where that bait ends. So if that bait is 4 feet deep at the top of the bait ball to 8 feet deep, so 4 foot depth of bait, you want to be fishing right at the bottom. You know, that is definitely what you're going to want to be doing and how you're going to be throwing. Now I want to talk about, you know, bass will sit still if they're holding to something. Cover, if they're holding to like a brush pile, they're going to be sitting still. But most of the time, they're out there roaming, swimming nonstop. Summertime, wintertime, all the time. You know, people always think, you know, in the wintertime, this bass are going to be held up in a thick brush pile. Yes, there's fish there, but still, majority of them are around chasing that bait, constantly moving, constantly swimming. And the good thing about forward-facing sonar is the more you use it, the more you're going to be able to tell which way that fish is swimming. You know, you don't want to be casting at the tail of that fish. I mean, you're casting at the tail, you're going to miss him. Especially he's going left or he's going right. If you don't know which way you're going to be casting this way, fish swimming that way, you're going to miss them. But you can look at that forward-facing sonar, and as you use it, you're going to be able to tell which way that fish is swimming. And you can also really easily pick out the good you can tell when it's going to be a good time. Like you can almost get out on the lake, drop your trolling motor, start scanning around, cruising around the lake, and just see what you're seeing. And you can almost tell what type of day it's going to be on the water. But let's see, we got 5 people watching. If you're just tuning in, you've missed some pretty good stuff, but you can always go back and watch this, you know, after the stream's over and everything. But we did just get started. If you have any questions, I mean, now's the time to ask. I mean, I've been using forward-facing sonar for 2.5 years. Me and my buddy Avery here on the stream, we got thousands of hours on it. Thousands. Thousands. So if you want any questions about it, whether if you don't have it, if you do have it, if you want to get it, if you can't comment, you might have to subscribe to the channel to make a comment. I think I have my comments public. I'm not sure, but I mean, everything else is public. I'm still learning all this stuff, you know, between the streaming and the audio, and I'm going to play some clips. I want to play a clip here. So actually, I am going to play a clip here, and I kind of just want you guys to watch this clip and see the fish's behavior on this bait. You know, it's a prime example. You know, people talk about how forward-facing sonar is going to ruin fishing. You know, it makes it too easy, blah, blah, blah. You still have to catch the fish. I've been out on a place where I catch hundreds of fish a day, 100 fish a day. And I've been out there and I've caught 2. You still have to make them bite. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play one of these clips real quick, and then I'll kind of go back and talk about it real fast. And just, if you guys have any questions, think of some questions. If you want to ask, it's now or never, unless you see me at the boat ramp. But check out this. Fish, just not at the right time. But I try to see them far away and make a long cast with that crankbait, so it gives them a longer time to chase after. Like, see, like if maybe he'll commit if. See, it's just, they know. I mean, look at them looking at it. It's just floating there. Sorry, I had to put the headset on so I could actually listen to the audio of what I was talking about on that. So right there, I'm throwing a square bill 1.5. And when I was throwing that, that whole video, I have the whole videos on my YouTube channel, my active target video. I got some clips that I had to crop out, cut, use a editing software so I could get them onto this stream. This takes a lot of work, guys. Um, but anyways, that was me throwing a 1.5 square bill, and that was basically showing how the fish behave, how they react to the bait, and what you're kind of looking for. I'll play it again in a minute so you can actually really see what those fish look like on there. But you can see how, who says a largemouth is not a sight feeder? You hear it all the time. That's another myth. I mean, yes, we know they sight feed, but you hear all the time, oh, smallmouth are the sight feeder. They like a sunny day so they can see. Well, wouldn't a largemouth like that too? Everyone's always like, oh, they're using their lateral lines more, this and that, blah, blah. Not the case. They can see, largemouth can see just as good as a smallmouth bass. I mean, you saw on that clip how those fish they saw that bait from, I'll show another couple clips here where the fish actually see that bait from more than 15 feet away. So, I mean, it's knowing that, if you can apply that to areas where you're fishing, knowing if you have fish at a certain depth, how, if I was to be slower on a swim bait, which I threw a swim bait in that scenario, I threw everything at those fish. And the only thing I was able to get those fish to bite on was I did catch one on the crankbait, but you want to know how I caught the fish on the crankbait. I don't have it on the screen, but I was reeling it. He was chasing it. He wasn't committing, but I got hung up in a treetop. Second I hit that treetop and then popped it back out, I mean, he choked it, ate it all the way down his throat, 5.5 pounder. So that's your prime example of, you got to bump things, trigger that strike, trigger that reaction strike. But if you watch those fish, I mean, those fish were chasing, following. I even stopped the crankbait and they followed it up. And I thought they would eat it on the way going up, because it's kind of like that jerkbait scenario. Everyone's seen people throwing jerkbaits, and there's a lot of good reasons why they throw jerkbaits, and there's a lot of people that don't tell you why they're throwing a jerkbait. There's a lot of good things about the jerkbait in certain scenarios, certain times of the year, that's going to make it really produce. And you're not going to hear people talk about it. You'll hear me talk about it. I got it on my videos talking about it, but that brings me to, oh, what was it going to bring me to? I got my notes. Let's see, any questions? Oh, do you have your live scope active target on its own battery? Yes, I have. Actually, I have it connected to my cranking battery. My trolling motor batteries are just for my trolling motor, and then I have my electronics on the cranking battery, and I have, what size is that, Avery? It's one of the big AGMs, the 60, I think. But yeah, I was having issues with, not getting enough power, and my screen would cut off. It actually cut off on me during I think it was a pretty serious tournament. I think it was like Oneida. It was overheating. I had some issues, but I definitely run it on its own battery with the cranking battery. I mean, so my electronics are separate from my trolling motor. I mean, that's the way you want to do it. My buddy keeps trying to convince me to get a second battery, but I'm afraid to keep adding that much weight to my boat. But my boat's already so slow as it is. That thing is, I mean, with me in the boat, I can do 70. Put one person in it, I can't get above 62. So I'm like, if I throw another big 80-pound battery in there, it's going to slow me down. But I hope that answers your question. It's definitely, that's the way I would do it if I was going to set up my battery. I would like to get two. I'd like to get a lithium or all lithiums, but I can't afford that. Man, you got distracted now. Now I got to rethink of where I was, because I was talking about that jerk. Oh, fish personality, the personality of a fish. Every fish has a different personality. You'll hear some people talk about it, like when you're watching the Elite Series or things like that. They're going to be talking about how some fish, it depends on the personality of the fish. They're all different. It's just like a human being. Some you'll cast to 30 fish, and then you'll cast to one. And the next thing you know, he comes up and just eats your bait. And then you'll cast to another one, and you have to slow roll it, and one will eat it, or four will eat it slow rolling, and then the next one you pop it on him, and he comes up and eats it. So being able to, let me take some water. My throat's getting dry. But you're going to see a lot too. Like with the fish's personality, you're going to have a lot. You're going to tell the fish's behavior. The more you use it, you're going to get an arsenal of baits that you're going to rotate through to help you get and receive information. Because that's really what the active target and the live scope, the forward facing sonars are doing. They're helping you retrieve information. And that's what your baits are going to really help you do, is being able to cycle through baits that are going to allow you to get more information on what the fish are doing. And so if you're going to learn to use certain baits, I want to make sure I say this correctly. But you're going to learn certain baits that you're going to have to throw first, and then you're going to have that rotation first, second, third, because you want to have something subtle at first so you don't just blow the whole opportunity, because your first shot's always going to be your best shot. But then you're going to have your next bait that's going to allow you to try something a little different, just depending upon how you see that. And see, these are things people aren't going to pick up on when they're not using forward-facing sonar. But the fact that you are able to look at the personality of the fish by using your baits, man, I'm giving out some good stuff. Jeremy May, aka School of Knox. What's up, Cap? Not much, man. But you're going to go through your rotation of baits with forward-facing sonar. And like I said, it's going to help you retrieve information on that fish's personality, how the fish are behaving, whether they're aggressive, whether you can be more aggressive. You know, if you're a power fisherman, you always want to be able to be more aggressive. Like if I can catch them on a jerk bait, I'll get them on a jerk bait. If I have to throw a swim bait, that's fine as well. But the key is how you want to be able to be efficient. You want to be quick. So that's one thing you're going to figure out with active target forward-facing sonar, retrieving information that you're seeing and being able to process that and use it to catch more fish. Oh, what did I have? Well, I talked about that. I talked about a lot of good stuff. I got some other stuff here too that I can talk about. If you guys have any questions, I know it's hard to, if you don't have the technology, it's hard to think of a question to ask because you just don't know. And that's not your fault. I used to be that guy. I used to not know. Let me see. No one's asking questions, but that's okay. I got a whole list of some more stuff I want to go over. Okay, yep. I want to play this video then. All right, so I'm going to play this clip here. And the guys that don't have this talk, let's see, don't forget the Carolina rig Rico. I'm not throwing a Carolina rig for forward-facing sonar. Unless I'm looking at structure. But if I'm looking at fish, I'd throw a drop shot first. I'm going to play this quick video for the people that don't have forward-facing sonar. This is how we used to catch them. But this is how I use the old school way of catching fish with the new school. So check this out. I'm looking at my screen right there. I got the fish's attention. So I trust my instincts and I look away. I just fish the bait. I don't even look at the screen.
Oh, get out of there. Oh, yeah. Smoked that.
It felt like a giant. He kind of got hung up in a tree. It was a good one. It's a 4-pounder. That guy.
Oh, my God.
I almost just took a massive treble hook straight to the face.
Yes.
Whoop.
He's spitting up little shad. Look at that.
Anyways, so guys, I want to break down that catch. I want to kind of explain how I'm talking about. That was old school fishing. That screen can get you in trouble. You know, you start seeing those fish react to that bait. And the first thing, if any of you guys get this, the first thing you're going to end up doing is setting the hook with these things with your eyes. And that is not what you want to do. you're going to see that fish come up and you're going to think he's eating that thing and he doesn't have it. And you're going to set that hook and you're going to miss him. Always, always, always wait for the bite. Trust me, you'll get the fish. But on that cast, I was having issues with I'm watching the screen and I'm trying to trigger strikes. Well, I reverted back to the old way of fishing, knowing how to. I always caught them before without it, so I just went back to doing what I naturally do. And as you can see, how I caught that fish was I looked away, I stopped looking at the screen, and let it react in my bait to what the fish was doing, and I just fished it the way I normally would have. And what I did, I just when I cast out, I ripped it up and I let it flutter and fall longer. That was the only thing that made me get that bite, was the fact that I went back to the old way. Instead of ripping it back up when I saw that fish come up to it, I just kept letting it sink. I don't know. I wasn't looking at the screen, but I know the fact that I let that bait fall maybe just an extra foot or two, that made that fish bite, and that's how I caught him. And there's a lot of things you will learn when fishing certain baits and how to trigger strikes. There's some pretty interesting ways to trigger strikes from bass. I'm not going to get into all of them unless someone asks me about it, because let's see what do we got here. Fishing AK Knox, not Knox. School of Knox. That's my style. That hard knocks, Jeremy May's style. All right, so let's see here. I'm giving up some good stuff. Stuff that took me a long time to kind of learn. A lot of time on the water. A lot of gas. Gas is going to be ridiculous. I'm going to the Chickahominy tomorrow. What are you doing, Jeremy? You going to the Chickahominy tomorrow? Low pitch. Yep. See, I've talked about some of these in my videos. Let's see. There's a lot of good stuff. I'm just trying to sort through these and pick one. How does that crankbait bite look? Are you talking about on the river tomorrow or on the active target that I played? No, I'm leaving paver. Oh, pavers. I got a paver job you can come do. I don't think the guy's going to want to pay for it. All right, so back to getting on topic. You know, those big fish, when you're catching big fish, anytime you're catching big fish, unless you were on Kentucky Lake back in the day before the Asian carp days, those big fish, most of the big fish I catch are in groups of 1 or 2. I've never seen a school of multiple. Well, I mean, I've caught 4 and 5 pounders. When I'm talking big bass, I guess that's relative, but I'm talking 8+ pounders, 7.5, really 7.5, 6.5. It's like once they get to that 6.5, 7.5, once they get up from there and up, they're definitely more of a loner. They're not roaming around with 8, 10 other fish. They're usually wrong. It's 1 or 2 together. I've never seen a school of like all 5 pound or all 6 pounders, all 7 pounders, but I've caught plenty of 7.5s, plenty of, you've seen it, 9s, 10s, plenty of them. So yeah, that's another thing too. If you're looking for, those big fish or loners. So think about that. If you're fishing shallow structure or cover, if you're catching a big fish, that's just a random. It's not random, but it's just a loner fish. It's by itself. You're not gonna find an area where you're gonna go in and catch 6 pounders in a row. If they're out there swimming, I've seen them in 2s, like I've said, but I'm just trying to explain how you can take that information and take it to shallow water fishing. Those bigger fish are definitely not trying to hang out with everybody. They're trying to hang out by themselves. They're trying to do their own thing. Oh, Avery's back. Oh, I was wondering why. I figured you would have answered that battery question on my on the active target and what kind of battery setup I got for using my active target. But um, we have some more people joining in. If you guys have any questions, you've you've missed a lot. Um, you missed a lot if you actually know what you're looking for. But if you have any questions about forward-facing sonar, active target, live scope, fish behavior, the myths of fishing, let's see. I got a whole list. Let's go look for another one. The information I'm sharing with you guys is going to help you guys be able to break down water and really help you understand why you're catching fish and give you ideas of where to take these things and apply them in scenarios where you've been on the water in the past, and it'll help you figure out why you were catching fish, why you weren't. Just like the slow rolling of the swim bait. Like most people think, and same with a jerk bait. I mean, most people think these fish are coming at your lure and smashing it. They don't. They do not come and hammer it. Out of probably 85% of the fish I catch, they come up behind it, nose the bait, follow it, follow it, follow it, follow it, follow it. They'll follow it from 80 feet all the way under the boat and not eat it, but they will follow it, follow it, follow it. And then next thing you know, you just feel a tick on the end of your line. They are not crushing it. They are not, most of the fish you're catching are not super aggressive. The only time bass are super aggressive is if they are actively feeding. When you see them busting on the surface, here, like this. Here you go. Watch this clip. Let that chatterbait sink down. All right. There goes my chatterbait down to him. See if I can get one to spin around on the chatterbait, maybe. Oh, like that. He should have had that. I mean, he came hard at it so fast, and I think he hit it. He bumped it. Yeah, that guy bumped it, but that was not the right. I think this is the one. Let that chatterbait sink down. All right. Nope. Didn't let me upload it. It was too long of a clip. But anyways, I had it on the screen where you could actually see the fish come up to the surface, and they broke the surface and ate. And I'm telling you, that's the only time fish are going to be aggressively feeding. Now, there are times when those fish are actually hunting and they're up there wanting to feed, but they're always just cruising around, and you'll cast to them and you'll get their attention. And sometimes they will crush that bait, but most of the time they're going to look at it, investigate, follow that thing, and then just nip at it. So think about that when you're slow rolling a chatterbait, slow rolling a spinnerbait. Think of the fish behind the bait, following it. It'll give you the confidence. It'll give you the confidence to think every cast you got something following it. Same with that jerkbait. They're going to come up beneath that jerkbait, and they'll sit there. So they talk about letting it pause for 30 seconds. Yeah, so I've held a swim bait in front of the fish's mouth under my boat like I'm crappie fishing for over a minute. Boom, 7.5 pounder. Watching him just stare at it. So think of that with your jerk bait when you are letting it sit suspended and you twitch it, that fish will follow it, then he'll sit there and stare at it. You'll twitch it again, he'll follow it and stare at it. And if you just let it sit long enough, that's what's going to trigger that strike. So that's how you know in the cold weather, even warm weather. Well, the warm weather, they're going to eat it. Like they're going to chase it. You have to keep it moving and they'll hit it. If you stop it, they get away. That's in the summer. That's on that. I had a jerkbait clip, but it was too long to download on here too. But let's see. I have a question for you. If I fish from the bank and want to start fishing for trophy bass, what advice do you give? You got to find a good lake. You got to find a good body of water. Those private lakes, anytime you can find in those little holes in the wall. I grew up here off the river, and there's two lakes up the street from my house. And one lake, I always thought it was just smaller fish. And then we had another lake. It was really good. It was in a neighborhood, gated community, but you could walk in there, and I mean, we would catch giants. And occasionally we got lucky, and one of the guys would let us use a paddle boat or something. But you're gonna need a good lake, and you just gotta, people think when they go to smaller lakes or ponds, they need to be throwing smaller baits. That's not the case. Throw big baits. I catch them 8-10 pounders in smaller lakes, things like that. If you're fishing a river, I used to do a lot of walking down around Powell, or not. What is it? I can't even remember what it's called anymore. Browns Island, but up from there, I forget what that's even called. Having a brain fart there. But I'd walk the rapids, especially up at Virginia Tech, the New River. I caught trophy smallmouth, just fishing the same way. We'll go out there with a bathing suit, walk around in the water, standing on rocks. That's always a good way to go out there, throwing the same baits you would throw for anything, buzz baits, things like that. It gets difficult, I know, fishing from a pond or fishing from the bank, carrying multiple rods. I used to like to at least bring two, and just so I didn't always have to retie when I wanted to change baits. But the main thing is, it's you're gonna need good water. Like, I mean, what kind of water are you fishing from the bank? Are you fishing like the James River, the Chickahominy River, Lake Anna, lakes like that? If I was going to be doing that, I mean, depending upon where your water access is, I mean, that's really going to dictate what you're going to be able to fish with, or also what you're going to be targeting. Because if you're going to be fishing, if your water access is, a shallow bank, and it's dead of winter, and you're fishing 3 feet of water, chances, I mean, you could catch fish there, but so basically trying to find the best access you can and using just the same baits. A lot of people, it's funny, when we fish from a boat, we cast to the bank, but when we fish from the bank, we cast out into open water. So don't be afraid to just try new things. I've caught big smallmouth or big bass just casting a Cinco out there in deep water and just letting it sink. Final farm ponds. Ask politely for permission to fish. Golf courses also tend to have great fish if you can get permission to fish. There's actually a pond. I was driving down the road here out in Powhatan the other day, Route 60, and I look over and there's this nice pond there, and it looks like there was bait like on the surface, and I saw a fish, and I was like, I'm thinking about doing a YouTube video. I think I'm going to do a little YouTube video where I take my rod. I'm going to like, it's going to be like a snatch and grab. I'm going to like slam on the brake right next to the pond, hop out the truck, cast a bait, and just try to catch some fish before I get kicked out or yelled at, because it's off the side of the highway. But it looked good. I mean, it looked good. I mean, the bait were at the surface, and you could tell there was fish chasing them. And this pond is small. I mean, it's maybe like the size of size of a house, and it looked good. It's like in a cow field. But yeah, I mean, that's what I did. That was like my big thing when I was younger, like walking around anywhere I saw that there was water. I tried to like, how am I going to fish this? How can I get in? And I just go do it. I mean, usually when young kid, it was a little easier because like, oh, you're young. Then you get into those teenage years, and they're like all these punks. And then when you get older, I don't know. Depends on where you're fishing. Let's see. Oh man, what time? It's 8:39 already. Man, time is flying. What are you guys up to this weekend? Anyone fishing? Avery, what are you doing Sunday? Oh, here's a good one. Who in here thinks fish sleep? Fish sleep. I'm telling you, fish sleep. They sleep. Don't do it. Don't tell them. Don't tell them about fish sleeping. Parallel the bank with your cast. Target vegetation and isolated objects. Yeah. You're maybe fishing. The wife works Saturday, and Saturday is gonna be a brutal day. Jeremy's gonna be out on. You're gonna be screwed on Bugs Island, dude. Like I saw that weather report. You're totally screwed. I would just. Where are you guys putting in at? See. You're probably putting in at Okanichi. I don't even know if he's still there. He might still be there. Yeah, he's going to be fishing Bugs Island with a northwest wind blowing 25 miles an hour with 40-mile-an-hour gusts. That wind is going to be ripping straight down Nutbush, straight down the. I've been out there and I speared a wave. You get those 4.5-foot rollers. The cat. Where was the cat going out of? Was that on the James? James River? Yeah. Yeah, no. I'm going fishing tomorrow because I know Saturday's going to be a wash. Sunday's looking all right, but it's going to be 50 degrees. I got the boat hooked up. As you can see behind me. If you've been watching the stream, all the tackle's gone. Sat through it, went through it. I had a suitcase, like a big suitcase filled with all my soft plastics. I went through all that yesterday, redid everything. Any of you guys out there ever go through your tackle and then you're like, man, I need to get rid of this? I had like a I had like a pile of stuff that I was like, all right, I might just post this on Facebook and say, hey, whoever comes can have all this stuff. Just name your price. Just give me some money. And I got like these 2 units over here just filled with crap. But I was like, and then as I was like looking at the stuff to sell, I'm like looking at it, I'm like, well, let me just say I can catch a fish on that. And then next thing I know, by the time I was done, I had like nothing I wanted to give away. But I got some stuff in there I'm thinking about. I'll give Avery first dibs. I don't think he needs any more stuff though. Don't sneak into a pond. Let's see. All right, we got 4 people watching. All right, should I end this stream with something good? Oh man, let's see here. Should I talk about big fish biting tiny baits? No, too much already. No one's gonna watch this. No one's gonna watch this. I'm not giving away y'all. I have no problem giving away the juice to 6 people. 2 without, most of them without the active target or a live scope. I've done too much. The damage is done. They're all gonna go out and start catching all the fish now. Oh, spook fish very readily. Yep. I've talked about a lot of this stuff in all my videos. Ooh. Yeah, I won't talk about any of that. I know this is the juice, but I'm only going to talk about what people ask about. I can't just give away the juice for free. You got to participate. Yeah, I know. It's only been 44 minutes. We got 4. I feel like a lot of people that watch aren't. I feel like a lot of people that are watching aren't subscribed, so they're not able to comment. They can comment. They need to comment if they want. They got 16 minutes to ask any question they want about forward-facing sonar, active target. Because I have people call me. They get this technology, and then they call me and ask me what they're doing wrong or how do they need to be using it, that they are not able to figure it out. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'll tell you if you don't know how. To me, I know you do, Avery. I have this whole case over here of some random stuff. I might actually do a stream where I go through all my random stuff because I got a bunch of. You'd be surprised about the random stuff that you get from. Oh, let's see, Big Mike subscribed, so yeah, that's so he can comment. Big Mike, where are you from? Big Mike Fishing Chronicle. You watch the Crappy Chronicles? Crappy fish. Well, you want me to talk about crappie fishing? Crappie fishing is the greatest. Like, if you want to go have a blast with active target, just go find a brush pile with some crappie in it, and you're just gonna have a ball. Which reminds me, I gotta dethaw some crappie tonight so I can eat them tomorrow. Washington D.C. Where do you fish there besides the Potomac? In Washington D.C. I'm heading up there. Well, we got the Open there on September 24th or something in September. It's on the Chesapeake Bay. So that's Maryland. So kind of Washington D.C. I'll be driving through there. I hate the Potomac. I hate it. I suck on it. I've had a good day on it. I had a good tournament finish on it, but I just went out and caught, what was it, 13 pounds one day, and then the next day zeroed. Lakes in Maryland. Okay. So there's got to be some good fishing. I'm sure you can get a lot of good fishing out there. I mean, dude, don't be afraid to throw a 10-inch worm. 10-inch worm. Texas rigged. That is like my deal. A 10-inch worm. You'll catch big ones that way. I believe you were the one asking about fishing from the bank, weren't you? Question: start fishing for trophy bass. What advice would you give? Yeah, fishing from the bank. Big worms, man. Kick it old school on bank fishing, especially if you're fishing lakes. I mean, if they're not big or small, if you can find those smaller private lakes, man, like, I mean, I've gone and knocked on some doors, and that's how I got to use the dude he actually had a nice little boat with a trolling motor on it and everything. He was like, yeah, you can use it. I mean, I was younger then, but I think now that I'm older, I actually got a client that I just picked up, landscape client. She's got a lake in her backyard. Like, there's like 4 houses on this lake, and it's out in Amelia, and it's literally like, it is not big at all. I could cast across the entire thing. And I talking to the neighbor, and he goes, he showed me a picture that caught 8-pounders in there. So I think when I go cut her grass, I've already talked to her. I was like, yeah, when I come cut your grass, she's like, you need to bring a fish. She's like, bring me a fishing rod. So every time I'm gonna have a rod in the truck, I'm gonna go take some casts in that thing because she's got the shallow end with like all the cattails and stuff. Oh, you know it's gonna be on fire right there in about 1 month. 1 month. They're gonna be spawning. I'm gonna be taking some casts in there. I'm gonna be cutting grass, taking casts, cutting grass, catching bass. I like that. Yeah, try a big 10-inch worm. Rattle traps. I mean, if you're not fishing around a lot of like, if you know there's not a bunch of like wood and laydowns in there, I like yo-yoing a rattle trap, especially this time of year and throughout the entire winter. Through like a red-eyed shad. Also, if there's smaller lakes where those smaller lakes got big fish in them, but they got smaller fish. If you're catching smaller fish, there's big ones in there, and you have to target those bigger fish with bigger baits. Plain and simple. Northampton. Let's see here. Northampton. I can look it over right now. Northampton Arbor. Is there a lake? It's a neighbor. It looks like a neighborhood. It's a neighborhood with a lake. There we go. Lake Drive. Not finding it. Northampton and in Arbor. Is Arbor in Maryland? Arbor in Maryland. Lake Arbor. Okay. I see Lake Arbor in Maryland. I think this is it. Yep, Maryland. 9,776. Oh, that's the population. I thought that was the acreage of the lake. 3.2 miles population. No, that looks like a fishy lake. Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, it looks like it's kind of dirty, so it looks like it might be kind of a shallow lake. And I mean, typically shallow. I mean, maybe what? You're fishing 15 feet deep. I mean, it looks like there could be some spots that are 30, but it looks like it's probably 25 feet deep. Just from the color of that water and the size of it. Yeah, man. Big worms. I'd throw a big worm. Um, I mean, it doesn't look like there's a lot of options. Well, there's some good looking banks, right? Is that off a golf? Is there a golf course connected to that? That's basically biggest fish I caught is 5 pounds. That's a good one. I mean, relative to where you are. I mean, you are in Maryland, right? I mean, I know once you get further north, they typically start getting smaller in size. Biggest fish I caught is 5 pounds. Yeah. So it's a grass. Yeah. See? Oh man. Chatterbait, swim jig. Be aggressive. Be aggressive. When that grass gets growing, be aggressive. Chatterbait, swim bait, casting out there, ripping it through there, being erratic with that thing. That'll help you get a lot of bites. And it'll definitely trigger big strikes. And also, again, that 10-inch worm. Just downsize your weight if you're fishing in the grass. That way you can just kind of pull it through there. Since you're fishing from the bank, I mean, the best thing is being able to make the longest cast you can too. I mean, obviously you can try to parallel the bank and make casts where you can. It doesn't look like it's the easiest lake to like walk around on the bank, but definitely if you can find those areas, especially if you have the ability to like get to good water location, like with like spawning flats, things like that, focus on that. Yep. Yeah, man, no problem, dude. Definitely just pay attention to those things, times of the year, and just realize too, in the springtime, nothing's going to be too shallow, and that looks like it has some fishy stuff in it, especially in some of those further back pockets. Anyways, all right, well that's cool. All right, you guys. Well, what time is it? 8:52. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate the support. I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to me yammer on and talk about bass fishing. I mean, I got nothing better to do except talk bass fishing, and I get to talk with you guys. And I think I'm gonna stick with. I'm liking the Tuesday Thursday schedule. Um, I think that might work. So I think I'm going to stick to Tuesdays and Thursdays. I get antsy, so I'm like, let me just do another stream, but we'll see. So I'm going to stick to Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 o'clock on the juice. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Don't know what the topic's going to be. I'll post, so keep an eye out, and I'll think of something good. So I thought this was a good one. I'm sure it'll get a lot of views. People that aren't watching it are missing out, and I'm okay with that because I gave away a lot of good secrets. I don't want everyone to know my secrets. So anyways, I'll see you guys next time, and I appreciate y'all.